this video, we will be answering a very difficult question with an answer that God revealed to me in a miraculous way. Is the Bible really the truth, or has science actually proven it wrong? I was a devout Christian that struggled with this question and many others, and this struggle of not finding answers led me to become agnostic for many years. Then God intervened in a miraculous way and revealed the answers to every single question I struggled with and brought me back into a close relationship with Him. God then instructed myself and my wife Melissa to start this online digital ministry called Questioning. The goal of this ministry is to share the answers He revealed to me with everyone and help those that are struggling with uncertainty. These answers are for everyone, Catholics, Orthodox and Protestants alike, and also agnostics and atheists. So let us dive in and get answers to this question that give us peace, clarity, and certainty. Welcome. We've already shared the full story of our journey on our YouTube channel. If you haven't seen that yet, I encourage you to go and check it out. We will be answering the following question today. Is the Bible really true, or has science actually proven it wrong? We'll explore this question and the answer that I've discovered and that God revealed to me, an answer that brought me clarity, peace, and certainty. When it comes to the Bible and science, there have been many debates and back and forth over the years, and if you approach every biblical event and try and prove or disprove it, you will end up in a never-ending rabbit hole. Sadly, in this modern day and age, we live in a world where people are bombarded with so much information that are fighting for their attention. And this creates a lot of confusion about what is real and what is not. And it becomes extremely difficult to determine what to believe and what not. There are many experts that have argued for and also against the Bible. And most people get bombarded with all this information, does not necessarily have the foundational knowledge that equips them to know what is actually true or false. My objective is going to be to equip you with that basic knowledge so that you can understand and distinguish what is important and what has an impact on your faith and what has not. I'm going to help you quiet the noise and make sense of this highly debated topic without getting lost in all the chaos. So let's take a step back and first understand what are we dealing with here. So we're dealing with the Bible and we're also dealing with science. So before we try and compare these two with each other, we first need to understand some basic concepts of both science and also the Bible. Here is a simple way to explain science. It is our current collection of knowledge that we as humankind have accumulated over time to understand our world around us. In most cases, the goal of science is to try and understand how something actually works. By asking the question how, we are investigating something in a manner that will help us understand what's going on and also to equip us possibly with knowledge that will benefit ourselves and others by developing new technologies and many other advancements. So the way that we develop science is through something called the scientific method. And here's a simple and an easy way to understand how it works and kind of what it's all about. We start by noticing something or asking a question. And then we do research to learn what is already known about this topic. After that, we form a testable hypothesis, which is basically a smart, informed guess that we can test with an experiment. So it is important that it is measurable in a way so that we can test the validity of this. Without being able to measure it in some way, we cannot reliably test if this is actually true or not. We then do the experiment and look at the clear evidence it gives us, and then we decide if the evidence supports our guess, aka our hypothesis, or not. This process is then repeated many times by different people who review and redo these tests. This creates knowledge that most experts then actually agree on and then can start to use. So science is not just the opinion of one person or something that is done in secret. Instead, our hypothesis and its results are published openly for everyone to see and also to scrutinize. So only ideas backed by strong evidence are accepted, and this is how science actually forms knowledge that is trusted and that can be used by many. So once all of this whole thing has been completed and it's done, and it's thoroughly tested and agreed on by most experts, it will then be regarded as scientific theory. And this will be what we put in our textbooks, in our schools, and also in our universities, and that we teach to people in various fields. They will then use this knowledge to add value to our society in millions of different ways. Because we continue adding to this pool of knowledge over time, we progress in a significant way also as the human race. Also very important to understand is that when we discover new things and as science develops, it also changes the previous science and knowledge that we have with more up-to-date science. It is not something that remains the same forever. It is regularly improved as new discoveries are made and as we learn more. This is also the reason why textbooks don't stay accurate for very long. A textbook has to be revised and updated all the time as it needs to accommodate the latest knowledge and the latest science. Using a textbook that is not up to date and that is outdated is really of no use. Some fields of science also change very rapidly, where others much slower. Things like foundational sciences will change very little or nothing at all. A good example is mathematics. 2 plus 2 equals 4, and it's not going to change anytime soon. It was true 1,000 years ago, and it is still true today. Also, things like the laws of physics and many other sciences serve as foundational building blocks that other more specialized sciences actually rely on and depend on. At the same time, there's also the most common answer we find in science. And that answer is, believe it or not, we don't know. You see, sometimes scientific discovery leads to more questions and not necessarily always answers. The more we sometimes learn about something, the more we also realize we know less than we actually thought we knew. There are many things we don't understand and that science currently has no explanation for. We are limited by our current knowledge and also our technology on what we can actually understand or not. So science cannot prove everything, only the things that are within our scope of understanding and technology and things that can actually be measured. So let's summarize what we have learned. Science is not the opinion of one person, it is a collective knowledge as a whole. Science is formed by testing it thoroughly and needs to be measurable in some way. Science often leads us to realize that we don't understand something and give us the most common answer in science, which is we don't know. Science cannot answer all questions, and science is also limited to our current scope and understanding and technology. Now let's look at the Bible as a whole. There are many different interpretations of the Bible, and there's also differences between the major branches of Christianity and what books is actually contained in the Old Testament. The New Testament, however, is the same across all major branches and also Christian denominations. We will make a video soon about where the Bible comes from and also why it's different between these main Christian branches, but it's not something that we will be exploring today. The reason for this is that even though some versions of the Bible contain different books in the Old Testament, it does not affect the core teachings of the church as a whole. And therefore, to compare it with science, it does not really matter. So look out for the video on how we got the Bible and why it's different between the Catholic, Protestant, and also the Orthodox churches very soon. There are also an estimated 45,000 different Christian denominations in this world, and many interpret the Bible very differently. So it's not possible to get a consensus across every single denomination that refers to itself as Christian. We will look at what the vast majority of Christian churches agree on across Catholic, Orthodox, and also your mainline Protestant churches. And this represents approximately 80 to 90% of all Christians, and therefore can be accepted as the consensus of what the Christian faith as a whole agrees on. There are three very important fundamental aspects of the Bible we have to understand before we can even think of comparing this to science. So number one is the Bible is not a book of science. And Timothy explains this really well. In 2 Timothy 3 verse 16 states that all scripture is breathed out by God and profitable for the teaching, for the reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness. So based on this scripture and the teaching of the vast majority of Christian churches, the Bible is not a book of science, and it also does not claim to be, and the church also does not claim it to be a book of science. The claim is that the infallible Word of God for the teaching of spiritual truth that is necessary for spiritual growth, moral teaching, and also salvation. So it helps us understand the why and deep spiritual things that we normally cannot measure. Love, faith, hope, and peace is not measurable things. And that is the type of things the Bible concerns it with as truth. Remember what we discussed earlier with the books of science. They need to be changed and adapted to contain the latest science and the latest knowledge. Otherwise, they're not reliable to be scientifically accurate. The Bible is not changed or adapted. In fact, the opposite is true here. There is a constant effort to get the best possible translation and version that relates as closely as possible to the original message. We want to keep it in its original form. So it can never be a book of science as it's not updated and adapted over time. And for this very reason, treating it as a scientific or a historic handbook is completely flawed. There are many scientific truths in the Bible, and many records are historically accurate based on current scientific knowledge as well, but that is not its purpose. So what is claimed is that the Bible is the Word of God for spiritual truth. This is used to teach and help people grow spiritually and also help us shape morals and values and obtain salvation. It was not written to teach us scientific or historic truths. If we want to discover scientific truth, we need to get the latest scientific textbook that is updated. And this can teach us the how and answer scientific truths. Number two, the Bible has to be understood in an adapted context. So because the Bible is not adjusted or changed over time, reading it in the content of modern human knowledge, culture, and circumstances will sometimes lead to completely incorrect understanding of the Bible. You have to look at the circumstances, the time period, location, and cultural influences at the time to understand the Bible. Someone that wrote the creation story thousands of years ago could not talk about the Big Bang or the evolution because those theories didn't exist back then. The science at the time was very limited. Modern science at the time still thought that the earth was flat. We need to understand what their knowledge was at the time and how they interpreted things to truly get the full meaning out of the Bible and to obtain that spiritual truth that it contains. This is also the reason why most Christian churches have spiritual leaders that goes through extensive biblical and theological training to help them interpret and understand the Bible correctly in the correct context. Let me give you a good and obvious example of how we can completely misunderstand the Bible due to a lack of context. This interpretation is accepted across denominations representing 80 to 90% of Christianity. In Genesis 9, verse 22, it says, "And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brothers outside." So if you read this story just as it is here, it comes down to Noah becoming drunk, and after drinking too much wine, sleeping naked in his tent, and then his son came in and saw him naked. Then he went out, and Ham's two brothers came in and covered their father without seeing his nakedness. But then something strange happens that makes no sense. Noah got so angry at Ham for what he did wrong that he cursed Ham's son, Canaan, to be the slave of Ham's brothers. Now, why would Noah curse his grandchild in such an extreme way? Because he was the one getting drunk and he was seen naked by his son. This does not make any sense. The reason is the context here is very different and not something that we understand. Uncovering your father's nakedness in the culture at the time and the way that people understood it meant something completely different. Let's look at these verses here. Leviticus 18 verse 8. "You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife. It is your father's nakedness." If a man lies, in Leviticus 20 verse 11, if a man lies with his father's wife, he has uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. And then in Deuteronomy 22 verse 30, "A man shall not take his father's wife, so that he does not uncover his father's nakedness." So what happened here is incest between Ham and Noah's wife, understood to be his mother, and that is the reason for this strong curse. So by not understanding the culture of the people at the time in an adapted context, we end up completely misunderstanding what is actually happening here. This applies to culture, location, current knowledge at the time, circumstances, and also things like whom it was written by and also whom it was written for in some cases. This is not the case with everything in the Bible, but in many cases when things don't really make sense or seems contradictory, we need to understand the context better. Number 3, the Bible is full of symbolic meaning. The other very important concept to understand about the Bible is that it is full of symbolism. This is also quite common in the local cultures and widely used throughout the Bible. There are also many poetic writings and teachings in the Bible. This is especially true when it comes to numbers, colors, animals, plants, places, and many other things. The number 7, 12, and 40 is often used to portray something else or another meaning more than a number, and in many cases cannot be taken as the literal meaning. A good example that is widely a misunderstood passage is Revelation 13 verse 18. This calls for wisdom. "Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. By using Jewish numerology, this number actually refers to Nero, the Roman Caesar, and refers to imperial oppression. This is accepted once again across all major denominations, Catholic, Orthodox, and mainstream Protestant churches, and is the case also clearly claimed by the writer here. He says it needs to be calculated, and it refers to a man, and that it signifies Emperor Nero if you work through the Jewish numerology, and therefore imperial tyranny. This, however, is very commonly interpreted by many people as the number that symbolizes Satan and the number of the beast, despite in this case even the passage itself saying something different. This is a good example of how symbolism can also be easily misunderstood. Other numbers that often have symbolic meaning that we mentioned before, number 7, it signifies divine perfection and completion. Number 12, it represents divine authority, government, and wholeness. Number 40, it denotes testing, trial, and probation. In many cases, when these numbers are used, there might be a much deeper spiritual significance or meaning attached to them, and not always a literal count or indication of what it is referring to. Once again, it supports the idea that someone that is theologically trained can assist with the interpretation of the Bible if things don't make sense or seems a little bit contradictory. So in summary, number 1, the Bible is not a book of science that teaches scientific truth. It is a book of faith teaching spiritual truths. Number 2, the Bible has to be read and understood in an expanded context. That takes into consideration many things, like, for example, the time that it was written and the circumstances of that time. The Bible, in many times, is also poetic and filled with symbolism, and not everything is meant to be understood in a literal way. These three aspects do not mean that we cannot compare or apply science to the Bible. In fact, it is good to do that and ask questions so that we can get a deeper understanding of the Bible. It also does not mean that the lay person cannot read the Bible by themselves. That is also very important to do and a crucial component for every Christian. It does, however, mean that if things don't make sense or seems contradictory, some of these aspects might be the reason for it. And we need something or someone to help us understand it better. So before we start comparing the Bible and science, we also need to know what a miracle is. A miracle is an event that goes beyond the normal laws and nature of our everyday understanding. Sometimes it's something science can't explain at all. Other times it may be technically possible from a scientific perspective, but very unlikely or not plausible. Like, for instance, a sudden, complete healing without any medical treatment. That science has no reasonable explanation for. Medically, it might be possible to heal, but not without treatment or not in this manner. Miracles often is also deeply personal. If someone experiences a healing miracle, they form a powerful connection to that event, and no one can take away their personal experience or the meaning it holds for them. There can also be strong evidence for a miracle. Imagine a person with a serious, documented medical condition that has no known cure, and then suddenly they recover. Doctors verify the diagnosis and later confirm that they are indeed healed, and thousands of such cases have been recorded, and thousands of people have actually witnessed them. The Catholic Church alone has thousands of documented miracles that they meticulously investigate and document, and the evidence, therefore, is quite open to the public. So then why is there no scientific agreement that miracles are actually real? So the main reason is how science actually works. So science relies on testing and repeating experiments under controlled conditions. So in other words, you need to be able to reproduce it over and over again and get the same result. If you could not reproduce a miracle, it will not work. If you can reproduce a miracle, it would no longer be a miracle. It would be a predictable event that you could measure and confirm and actually become a breakthrough now in science. So because miracles, by definition, is a one-of-a-kind, unrepeatable event, they lie outside the scope of science. Science can check that the evidence is solid, like verifying the medical records, but it cannot prove or disprove the supernatural nature of a miracle. The very essence of a miracle is that it defies explanation by science, logic, and also natural law. So now the exciting part. With our newly equipped knowledge about the Bible, science, and miracles, let's dive into some hotly debated scientific and biblical comparisons and see what we can actually learn. So arguably the most debated one of all is the creation story and the origins of everything. Science is ever evolving on this complex matter, but we have very good consensus on the Big Bang and evolution from a scientific perspective. The Bible, on the other hand, gives us two creation stories. Yes, you heard that correctly. There are two creation stories in the Bible, many people only refer to one, but there are actually two distinct creation stories, both in Genesis, one straight after the other. The first creation story starts in Genesis 1 verse 1 and continues until Genesis 2 verse 3. The second creation story starts straight after that in Genesis 2 verse 4 and continues until verse 24. So what I would like you to do is I want to encourage you to go and read these. If you don't have a Bible, you can just do a simple search for Bible English Standard Version and then use one of the many free online versions available. I recommend this version because it is good balance between readability and also accuracy. But any other version should also be fine. So in the first creation story, we have creation divided into 6 days and in a specific order. Then in the second creation story, it only mentions 1 day and the order is also different. Also, in the first story, it says a couple of times it was evening and it was morning, but the sun and days itself was not created yet. Also, how can there actually be a first day if there's also no day created yet? And I'm sure that there's also a lot of other things you can think of that does not make logical sense in these two stories. So as we have learned, we need to apply our new knowledge we've learned earlier to understand what is going on here. So the fact that there are two distinct stories that is telling us different things with a different order, a different focus, and a different logical flow, it is obvious that there is a much deeper teaching going on here. The writer is not even remotely attempting to create the idea of a story that explains in a scientific or a logical way how everything is created. He is busy teaching us spiritual truths. We have already learned that the Bible is not a book of science and not claiming to be, but here we see it in action, where it is clear and obvious that the focus is spiritual and deeper meaning. If the goal of this writer was scientifically accurate teaching, we would have had one definitive story telling us one thing in a logical, clear, and defining order. This is most certainly not what we have here. The spiritual truths that are being taught here are that God is the source of creation. He is behind the order of all creation. Also, we find poetry here as well. The reason why it repeats that there was evening and morning before the days was created is because it emphasizes that God has the authority of time, not the sun and the moon. It also marks the importance of the Sabbath day, the day of rest, and that creation that was good. It also is clear that God gives authority over creation to man, and that man's purpose is to be in a close personal relationship with God. But if we want to understand how God created, then science helps us answer that question. The originator of the Big Bang Theory was a man called Father Georges Lemaitre. He was a Catholic priest. The Christian Church has also been very avid supporter and an active participant in developing modern sciences. The Christian friar Roger Bacon also played a critical role in developing the scientific method we use to develop modern sciences that we also discussed earlier. Many giants in science were Christian men and women and are still today helping us form and expand modern science. In the creation story in the Bible, we also learn that humans were created by God to be intelligent and we have responsibilities, and that is why He actually appointed us over creation. He also wants us to use our intellect that He gave us. One of the ways that we do that is by developing science and understanding things better and also understanding Him better. The Big Bang and evolution are in no way contradictory to the creation story. It supports it by helping us understand how God created everything. The Bible does not teach us how, it teaches us why. It also does not have to teach us how because God gave us the intelligence we need to develop science that we can learn more about Him through science and discover the how. Science, through the Big Bang and evolution, tells us how God created everything, and it teaches us more about God. So what about before the Big Bang? Where did God come from, and how was the primordial singularity, the thing that actually expanded in the Big Bang, then come from? The one answer we find commonly in science, as we discussed earlier, is the answer of we don't know. And that seems to be the case of what the origin was of the Big Bang. There are many theories, but no widely accepted consensus yet. In many cases, the more we learn, the more we also realize there is more that we actually don't understand. As we learn more, it will also once again teach us how God created everything. There are 5 main theories at the moment that could be the cause or the reason for the Big Bang. We are not going to go into detail, we're just going to have a quick glance at them. The first one is the no boundary theory, the eternal inflation theory, the quantum vacuum theory, the classical singularity theory, and then the cyclical bounds models theory. None of these are actually conclusive or something that the majority of experts agree on at the moment, so we have a couple of ideas, but the correct answer is we don't know yet. However, it is interesting that all 5 of these theories support the following 3 concepts in some shape or form. Number 1 is something that just existed. Number 2 is something that is infinite. And then number 3, something that is outside time and space. These 3 things are exactly what God is and how the Bible describes God. Let's look at what the Bible says here. In Exodus 3 verse 14, it says, God says to Moses, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. Here God reveals his name to Moses for the first time as I am. This explains to us the nature of God. He just is. He just exists. In Psalm 90 verse 2, before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. This tells us God has always been. He is infinite, just is, without a start or a finish. No time applies to God. In Psalm 147, verse 5, it says, Great is our Lord and abundant in power. His understanding is beyond measure. Once again, God is infinite. And then lastly, in Psalm 139, verse 7 to 8 is, Where shall I go from your spirit, or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. Again, God is without limits with regards to time and also space. This describes God as a being that just existed, that is infinite and not bound by time or space. So the 5 leading theories of the origin of the Big Bang not only allows the possibility for God to be the source of the Big Bang, it actually points to it and also supports it. Other areas in the Bible that can also be looked at and where science helps us understand the how of the Bible better. Noah and the flood. There is substantial archaeological evidence that there were large regional floods at the time that would have supported the wording in the Bible. The Hebrew phrase all the earth, kol aretz, frequently means all the known land. And the regional flood was large enough at the time to make that very likely to be the case. This would then also mean that only regional species of animals was on the ark, and there is broad consensus that there is substantial biblical and scientific evidence to support this. And a great example of how science and the Bible complement each other and work in harmony to understand both the spiritual and also scientific truths behind this amazing story. Moses and the Exodus. There is broad consensus among scholars from both a scientific and also a biblical perspective that the Exodus could have been a smaller group of people. Some of the numbers that are reflected in the story are understood to be symbolic of nature, and that archaeological evidence of a smaller group of people in the area is much better supported. Then Joshua and his conquests. This is the example where very ancient writing style blends real stories and symbolism that gives us a mix of real events that can be supported by archaeological evidence and also symbolic teachings that uses powerful images that teach us spiritual truths and lessons of God's provision and also protection. that cannot be archaeologically supported. These and many other stories in the Bible serve as good examples of how science and the Bible can work together in harmony, neither one proving the other one wrong, but actually doing quite the opposite, supporting each other. In the New Testament, the focus is mainly the story of Jesus, his teachings and the events that occurred after his resurrection, and the early church and the apostles. There's overwhelming scientific consensus based on archaeological evidence that many of the stories are accurate, that Jesus was indeed a real person that was crucified under Pontius Pilate, and that validate the events and stories of the apostles and his disciples after his resurrection. The Bible itself is composed of various independent sources that all confirm this, but there are also many external sources coming from non-believers and other archaeological evidence that support some of the events that actually happened. In the Old Testament and the New, there is an overwhelming amount of archaeological and scientific evidence that can prove and support a lot of the narratives and stories in the Bible, that points to scientific and historic accuracy, despite the Bible not being a book of science, but actually a book of faith. Some of this will maybe change over time as science develops to help us learn and understand even more. And then there are some events we have not found any evidence for yet. A lack of evidence does not prove anything. However, it helps theologians to revisit some of the understandings we have. In many cases, this then leads to better understanding and revelation of even more spiritual truths in the Bible. There is no scientific evidence that proves any spiritual truth in the Bible wrong, but many that supports and helps us understand the spiritual truths even better. There are also many miracles in the Bible that, as we learned before, is not something science can help explain, but sometimes it allows us to understand some of them better. It helps us evaluate the validity of the evidence left by these miracles so we can get a clearer picture of it. Many relics have been under intense scrutiny by scientists now for many years, where there is consensus that it cannot be scientifically explained. A good example of this is the Shroud of Turin, and also more modern miracles like many Eucharistic miracles, and also a significant amount of well-documented healings. In each of these cases, science concludes that there is no scientific explanation on how it actually occurred, despite the evidence that it left behind. This defines what a miracle is very well, something that cannot be explained. For the people that experience them, and also for many people that see the evidence that it left behind, it is supportive of the miracle they witnessed or evidence they see and proof that it did indeed happen. Now, for the big miracle and the big evidence. Many of the biblical miracles happened too long to be able to be examined now from a scientific point of view, and also left us no evidence to be able to actually validate them. The biggest one of them all, however, is the miracle of the resurrection of Jesus. It is widely accepted and agreed that he lived and also was crucified. Regarding his resurrection, however, as with any other miracle, there's no way that we can replicate this and actually test it with science. We can, however, evaluate the evidence that it left behind because of it. I'm not referring to the relics like the Shroud of Turin this time, but the well-documented events that happened after his resurrection. We have several sources within the Bible, as well as many outside the Bible, in the form of historical documents and other archaeological evidence that the apostles and disciples of Jesus, who were alive in his lifetime, not only planted churches and spread Christianity, but in many cases suffered persecution and torture for the sake of their beliefs. The people who saw Jesus die and come back to life, or who knew these witnesses, believed so strongly in what happened that they were willing to die for it. They said Jesus was crucified, rose from the dead, appeared to many, told them to start this church, and then went up to heaven. Why would anyone face torture and refuse to say that it was not true? We are talking about many people that had a very deep conviction and believed with everything in them and proclaims to witness his presence after his resurrection. So deep was their conviction that they were willing to be tortured to death in a gruesome way, but they would not deny his resurrection. These stories of these people that are verified with many archaeological records serve as strong evidence for the miracle of the resurrection. But the biggest evidence of all, these people not only suffered for this, they established the Christian church that still has two main branches, tracing a well-documented line of succession back to these very apostles. We are talking about almost 2,000 years of well-documented succession, handed over from one person to the next, all the way from today back to Jesus himself. Why would all of this be so profoundly protected for millennia, despite persecution and torture? It also gave us the New Testament of books that were also written in the first century. These serve as distinct sources alongside many external sources that all document the rise of the church. But it goes even further than that. Those who were tortured and oppressed the apostles was the Roman Empire. The very church that the empire persecuted ended up conquering them by becoming its official religion in the year 380 AD. Amazingly, this religion became the largest religion in the world, where the spiritual truths taught in the Bible have been changing people's lives and brought forth millions of miracles, conversions, and deep meaning for thousands of years. 2.4 billion people today are part of this miracle. This overwhelming evidence that can be verified by science points not only to the validity of the Bible, but also the biggest miracle of all. Jesus rose from the dead. There is something even more important, the clearest evidence of all, and the undeniable truth. You are the biggest evidence, because you can have a personal relationship with God. You see, when you meet God and form a relationship with Him that is more real than anything that you've ever experienced before, you don't need evidence. You don't need proof. Your relationship with Him is the proof, and it is the evidence. It is because of this that this miracle gave birth to a church of billions of people, the biggest religion in the world, and that these people can and never will deny this miracle because they know it to be true. They know and live with that same Jesus that rose from the dead every single day. And they have a personal and intimate relationship with Him that can never, ever be denied. If you have not experienced this, or God has not revealed Himself to you in a way that you can say this with certainty, I promise you now, He is calling you, and He will never give up on you, and He will reveal Himself to you. We are also going to help you because we will make a video that will show anyone how to meet and to get to know God and hear His voice with absolute certainty, a certainty that you cannot deny. This is the very same certainty that is the driving force that made this video, and that He gave me by revealing Himself in a way that is more certain than anything else I've ever felt in my life before. He also told us to start this ministry to give people the answers that they need to come to Him so everyone can have that relationship with Him. If you feel something moving in your heart, that is God's call. Listen to His call and pursue Him through prayer, scripture, and the church. If you don't know where to start, you can also reach out to us so we can point you in the right direction. Look out for our video on how to hear the voice of God and to get to know Him personally. So what have we learned today? The Bible and science both have their limitations and also purposes. Neither one is proving the other one wrong. In fact, they do quite the opposite. They actually support each other. The Bible teaches us the way of the why with deep spiritual truths and teaching and the immeasurable things like miracles, where science teaches us the how and measurable things. It also helps us validate evidence of some of the miracles and help us to understand God much better by learning more about Him. Science and the Bible are not enemies of one another. They are both gifts of God that we should use to learn more about God. In our next video, we will be asking another difficult question. Are Protestants, Catholics, and the Orthodox all Christians? And where did we get the Bible from, and why is there more than one? This will help us with a deeper understanding of the Christian faith and the origin of the Bible, and help many people struggling with this question to also find peace, certainty, and clarity. Now, the last and most important thing. I need your help. There is someone out there that needs to hear this story. There is someone out there that needs to watch this video, and you are the only one that can make that happen. You have to share this video with as many people on as many platforms as you possibly can. Also, you need to subscribe to our mailing list, YouTube channel, and social media pages so that you will not miss our next videos that will help you in your journey. Then, very importantly, making these videos costs money, time, and effort, and we need your help to support us in doing this, making more videos and also reaching more people. So we've made all of this very easy to do. Please go to our website, www.questjourney.com. The link is on all our social media pages and also our YouTube channel. And you can do this from any device. On the home page, you can just scroll down and you will see 4 easy to follow steps. Please follow them. Number 1 is watch our content, which you've done now. Number 2 is share this everywhere and with everyone. Number 3, follow and subscribe to our media channels and also our mailing list. And then lastly, support us with donations so we can make more content and reach more people. Thank you for watching, sharing, and supporting us. May God bless you and your family. Goodbye.